The van pulled up too fast. Wrong angle, wrong timing. Carlos Rivera noticed it immediately from his parking booth. The way the side door was already sliding open before the vehicle stopped. How the driver kept the engine running. The second man in back positioning himself near a 6-year-old girl walking 20 feet ahead of her distracted mother. Most parking attendants would have assumed it was just someone in a hurry. But before Carlos had spent 4 years collecting tickets and directing traffic at the Westfield Mall in Houston, Texas, he'd spent 15 years with the FBI's hostage rescue team, the same unit that responds to kidnappings, terrorist threats, and high-risk tactical operations across the country. He'd conducted over 300 operations, rescued 42 hostages, and been trained to recognize pre-attack indicators in the split second before violence happens. The van driver was making eye contact with the man in back. The mother was on her phone. The child was vulnerable. Carlos had maybe 5 seconds before a kidnapping attempt became a kidnapping success. And nobody else in that parking lot saw what was about to happen. Carlos Rivera, 48, had been a parking attendant at Westfield Mall since 2019. After retiring from the FBI with a medical disability, a back injury from a tactical operation gone wrong, he needed work that was physical but manageable, that kept him active without the intensity of federal law enforcement. The parking booth job was perfect. Steady hours, good benefits, interaction with people without the life or death stakes he'd lived with for 15 years. He directed traffic, collected fees, helped lost customers find their cars. Simple work, peaceful work. His application had listed Federal Law Enforcement 2004 to 2019 and security certifications. The mall's HR department appreciated his background, but never asked which federal agency or what his specific role had been. Carlos seemed like a responsible, mature hire for a position that required trustworthiness and attention to detail. What they didn't know was that FBI Special Agent Carlos Rivera had been part of one of the most elite tactical units in American law enforcement, the Hostage Rescue Team, that trains alongside Delta Force and Navy SEALs, that responds when local police can't handle a situation, that operates in the gray zone between law enforcement and military operations. Saturday afternoon, 3:47 p.m. The mall was busy. Holiday shopping season, families everywhere, the parking lot at near capacity. Carlos was in his booth at the main entrance, processing exit tickets and watching traffic flow with the practiced attention of someone who'd spent years on surveillance operations. That's when he saw it. The white cargo van, no rear windows, tinted front glass, entering through the wrong lane. Not illegal, just wrong. The kind of wrong that sets off alarm bells for anyone trained to spot pre-operational behavior. The van circled once, slowly, the driver scanning, not looking for a parking space, looking for something else. Carlos's 15 years of experience recognized the pattern immediately. This was hunting behavior. Then the van pulled into a loading zone and stopped, engine running. The side door was already partially open. A man in the back, visible for just a moment, positioning himself near the opening. 50 feet away, a young mother walked toward her car, phone pressed to her ear, animated conversation. Her daughter, maybe 6 years old, skipped ahead, too far ahead. 20 feet of separation, vulnerable distance. The van's driver made eye contact with the man in back. A nod. The kind of signal Carlos had seen in training videos, in case studies, in the split second before coordinated action. Carlos was already moving. Years of tactical training don't fade. They become reflex. He stepped out of his booth, keyed his radio. Security, Carlos at north entrance. Possible Code Adam situation developing. White cargo van, Texas plates, loading zone near Macy's entrance. Need immediate response. Code Adam, mall protocol for missing or endangered child. It would trigger immediate action from mall security. But security was 90 seconds away. The child was 20 feet from the van. The side door was opening wider. Carlos moved with the purposeful stride of someone who'd breached buildings under fire, who'd conducted hostage extractions in hostile environments. Not running, that would alert the kidnappers and cause panic. Walking fast, with authority, directly toward the child. "Sweetie, your mom's calling you," Carlos called out, voice loud enough to be heard, friendly enough not to frighten the girl, but commanding enough that the mother looked up from her phone. The child stopped, turned. Carlos positioned himself between her and the van, his body creating a physical barrier. The van's driver saw Carlos coming, saw him key his radio again, saw the security uniform and the deliberate positioning. The side door slid shut quickly. The van pulled out, not fast enough to draw attention, but fast enough to abort the operation. Carlos memorized every detail in the 5 seconds he had visual: make, model, partial plate number, driver's physical description, dent on rear bumper, distinctive roof rack. "Ma'am," Carlos said calmly to the mother, who'd finally looked up, "I need you to stay right here with your daughter. Mal security is coming. That van that just left, it was positioning to grab your child." The woman's face went white. "What? Are you serious?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm former FBI hostage rescue team. I've seen this pattern before. That was a coordinated attempt. Your daughter needs to stay next to you, always." Mall security arrived within 2 minutes. Carlos provided a detailed briefing: vehicle description, occupant details, behavioral indicators, timing, positioning. Everything he'd been trained to document during critical incidents. "Sir, how did you identify this as a threat?" the security director asked. "We didn't see anything unusual on cameras until you intervened." 15 years with FBI hostage rescue team, Carlos replied. Specialized in kidnapping response and child recovery operations. The van's approach pattern, the pre-positioning, the timing relative to the victim's vulnerability. Those are signature indicators of a planned abduction attempt. Houston PD arrived within 8 minutes. Carlos gave a statement that read like a professional tactical debrief. Precise, detailed, using terminology that immediately signaled his training level to the responding officers. "Mr. Rivera, you're former FBI?" the lead detective asked, reviewing Carlos's statement. "HRT, Hostage Rescue Team, 2004 to 2019. Responded to 42 kidnapping situations during my career. This was textbook pre-attack behavior." The detective's expression changed. Everyone in law enforcement knows about HRT. It's the FBI's equivalent of Special Forces, the unit called when situations exceed normal SWAT capabilities. "Your intervention probably prevented a child abduction," the detective said. "We'll need you to work with a sketch artist and review surveillance footage." The van was identified within 3 hours. Stolen vehicle, reported missing 2 days earlier, from a neighborhood 30 miles away. By evening, traffic cameras had tracked its movements. The 2 men inside were arrested at a motel the next morning, charged with attempted kidnapping and conspiracy. Investigation revealed they'd been conducting surveillance at multiple Houston area malls for weeks, identifying vulnerable targets, planning abduction attempts. Carlos's intervention had stopped them before they'd successfully taken a victim. The mother, whose name was Jennifer Walsh, came back to the mall 2 days later specifically to find Carlos. "Mr. Rivera, the police told me everything. What you did, what you saw, how you stopped them." Tears streamed down her face. "My daughter, Emma, she would have been taken if you hadn't recognized what was happening. I was on my phone. I wasn't paying attention. You saved her life." Carlos's response was characteristically humble. "Ma'am, I just did what my training prepared me to do. The FBI taught me to recognize these patterns. I'm glad I was in the right place at the right time. But you're a parking attendant. Nobody would expect." "The job doesn't define the skills," Carlos interrupted gently. "I'm FB. I trained whether I'm conducting operations or directing traffic. That training doesn't expire." The story made local news. Parking attendants FBI. Training prevents child kidnapping. The coverage detailed Carlos's HRT background and how retired federal agents continue serving their communities in unexpected ways. Westfield Mall offered Carlos a security director position with significantly higher pay. He declined. "I like the parking booth. I like helping people find their cars, making sure families get home safely. The fact that I can also recognize and prevent crimes, that's just a bonus." But the mall did make one change. Carlos now trains all security personnel on threat recognition, pre-attack indicators, and how to identify suspicious behavior that might signal criminal intent. Carlos Rivera still works the parking booth at Westfield Mall, still collects tickets, still directs traffic, still helps lost shoppers. His uniform looks the same as it did before. But now everyone knows that the friendly parking attendant has spent 15 years with one of the world's most elite tactical units, has rescued 42 hostages, and has training that saved a 6-year-old girl from being kidnapped in the split second before it happened. The 2 men arrested that day were convicted of attempted kidnapping and linked to 3 other cases in surrounding states. Their operation had been sophisticated, planned, coordinated. They'd targeted multiple locations, studied patterns, identified vulnerabilities. What they hadn't planned for was a parking attendant who could read their tactical approach as easily as he could read a license plate, who could recognize pre-attack positioning because he'd spent 15 years conducting the operations they were trying to execute. Emma Walsh turned 7 years old 2 months after the incident. Her mother sent Carlos a photo of the birthday party, a happy child, surrounded by family, living a life that almost ended in that parking lot. Sometimes the person collecting your parking ticket has rescued hostages in situations you can't imagine. Sometimes the most elite training in federal law enforcement gets used to prevent crimes most people never know were about to happen. And sometimes choosing a peaceful retirement doesn't mean leaving your skills behind. It means carrying them quietly until someone desperately needs them. Have you ever realized someone in a service job had training that prevented a tragedy? Share their story, because professionals never stop being professionals. They just serve in different uniforms. If this story reminded you that heroes work everywhere, subscribe to Life Stories Archive. Every quiet protector deserves recognition for staying vigilant in any role they choose.